Hi, everybody. A very good Monday morning to you. Today, welcome October. First day of October, 2018. 3 months to go. October, November, December. Come on, let's face it. Despite everything, hasn't been too bad a year for us, has it? Very interesting. All sorts of stuff happening in the spice aisle. There's never a down moment in Grenada. And one of the things we intend to keep on doing here on Gudday, Grenada, is taking a look at some of the stuff that a lot of other media tend to just, brush aside, but things which are very important to us. For example, this morning, we're going to be taking a look at an attitude which seems to have been adopted here by our government, where we seem to have a flagrant disregard for the ruling of the OECS Court of Appeal. We're going to take a look at that, and we're also going to bring you this week's edition of the Caribbean Literature Quote of the Week. We have a young lady who came in here a couple of days ago to be recorded, and we're going to run that by you. Then we have the National Report to see what our government's doing on our behalf, and then we're going to wrap it up with another look. It's all the talk over Facebook right now. A lot of people have been buzzing about this all over the place. Some comments that were made in New York by the Prime Minister during his visit to the United Nations, I think he went, and also had a bit of a town hall meeting with Grenadians up there. Made some comments which have ruffled, and I mean ruffled, a lot of feathers. For those of you who didn't hear that yesterday, we're going to run it by you again this morning, okay? However, let's begin here. To a large extent, many Grenadians are still in a state of denial that we are, or are becoming, a lawless state. And I'm not just referring to the behavior of the average citizen. I am referring to the behavior we see coming from our elected officials, the very people whom we pay to uphold the law. Last week, I shared with you a letter sent to me regarding the unjust removal of a cabinet secretary a couple of years ago, and the blatant disregard and disrespect for the ruling of the OECS Court of Appeal. And today, I would like to share with you another letter relating to the same issue. It is captioned, "Unconstitutionally Removed Retroactively." With the intensification of the advocacy and debates for the CCJ as the final appellate court continuing, citizens of this tri-island state are being given the opportunity and exposure to the administration of justice in Grenada and the wider OECS. The debate on the CCJ is good and provides an avenue for citizens to learn about the administration of justice while keeping abreast with developments touching and concerning the Constitution. The intention, therefore, is not to discredit the CCJ. It is only to emphasize that governments, as well as the citizens, are expected to operate within the framework of the legal system and to adhere to the Constitution as the supreme law of the land and the laws enacted by the Parliament. Maintaining law and order and protecting the rights of citizens are the reasons for the existence of governments. When government does not adhere to the Constitution and the laws and blatantly disregards judgments of the local and regional courts, as in the case involving the former cabinet secretary, it destroys the confidence that we, the citizens, have in the laws and institutions of the state. It is unbelievable that, armed with the ruling by the OECS Court of Appeal, which was delivered on September 22nd, 2017, that the Chief Personnel Officer in the Public Service Commission saw it fit to pen a letter dated July 24th, 2018, to the former Cabinet Secretary, advising of her dismissal from the public service with effect from February 14th, 2014, with no reference to entitlements and compensation. This action by Her Excellency the Governor General and of the Public Service Commission raises questions as to whether there has been any precedent of removing someone from office retroactively. It is bad enough to remove an officer unconstitutionally, but when this is done retroactively, it is mind-boggling. How much more cynical can the authorities become in the administration of justice? While intensively following the ongoing debate on the CCJ, I heard Dr. Francis Alexis, QC, and renowned constitutional expert in the region, respond to a question that referred to the actions taken to obtain compensation in the Gary case. What Dr. Alexis said may be true. However, it should be noted that the two cases are not equal. In the case of the former Cabinet Secretary, there is, to date, no commitment by the government to honor the decision of the OECS Court of Appeal. Instead, the former senior public officer was unceremoniously dismissed from the public service without a compensation package or a commitment to compensate. The former senior public officer, therefore, requested that the letter, which did not comply with the Constitution and laws of Grenada, be retracted and reissued to reflect such conditions and to cater for her constitutional entitlements, compensation, and court-awarded damages, which to date have not been rectified. After over 30 years of public service, a senior public officer who is duly qualified for retirement benefits is retired by Her Excellency the Governor General with no terminal benefits as required by the Constitution and the laws of Grenada. Despite the public awareness, the government has maintained a firm position of non-commitment to compensate. I maintain that the government has blatantly violated the Constitution of Grenada, has refused to adhere to the decision of the OECS Court of Appeal, and has displayed a lack of respect for the former senior public officer. Simultaneous with a letter of dismissal from the public service, the government was obligated to provide the former Cabinet Secretary with a compensation package based on the Constitution and the laws of Grenada and the OECS Court of Appeal ruling. This action by the government questions its moral authority to advocate for reforms of the legal system. The government must lead by example. As the debate on the CCJ continued, I noted the reference by attorney at law Ruggles Ferguson to the complicated procedures for enforcement of legal rulings. I wish to inform that the lack of enforcement amounts to a lack of justice, and justice delayed is justice denied. In your advocacy, Mr. Ferguson, please remember this maxim. I am in possession of the letter from the Public Service Commission to the former Cabinet Secretary, which does not make any reference to the compensation package or an invitation to discuss the compensation package. When removed constitutionally or unconstitutionally from the public service, public officers should not have to beg for their entitlements and compensation. I am therefore respectfully asking the government to be mindful of its obligations to public officers and provide the former Cabinet Secretary with a compensation package based on the Constitution and the laws of Grenada and the OECS Court of Appeal. The decision of the government has repercussions for us all as public officers and the citizens we serve. It is therefore important that all take note of the outcome of this matter. And that note, my dear friends, was signed, once again, by a concerned citizen. There are many concerned citizens out there, okay? Folks, I'll tell you what right now. And by the way, I'm sure this issue is not going away. Right now, this week's edition of the Caribbean Literature Quote of the Week.
Brought to you by the Grenada Community Library. Welcome to the Caribbean Literature Quote of the Week. A defined invention of one's own becomes a compulsive need. Syntax, grammatical construction, tone, pitch, and inflection are all the creatures of invention in the determined drive towards a new perception of self. From the fiction book Anansi Traveler by Andrew Salkey. This book takes a journey of discovery with Anansi leading the way in his quest to travel the historical complexities in the lives of Caribbean people. It is available in the George Parfit Caribbean Collection at the Grenada Community Library, number 7 Liquor Street, St. George. Andrew Salkey was born in Colon, Panama in 1928 of Jamaican parents. He was educated at Monroe College in Jamaica and then attended the University of London in 1952, where he did a bachelor's degree in English. Salkey was one of the most prolific Caribbean writers, having published more than half a dozen novels, several volumes of poetry, and short stories. While growing up in Jamaica, Salkey was drawn to and deeply influenced by the oral tradition that was passed on to him by his grandmother and his mother. The impact of the Anansi story shared at nighttime is clearly demonstrated in his fascination with the trickster figure in virtually all of his works. With thanks for the kind support of George Grant and the GrenadaBroadcasting.com, we invite you to listen every week. Find us online, share, and spread the wealth and words of our literature and authors. And visit the Grenada Community Library to borrow great books for free.
Okay, thank you very much, young lady. Before we move on to the national report, I want to say good morning to the folks there on Facebook. I see that Maureen Batiste has joined us for the broadcast. Chester says he's out there in Switzerland, eyes wide open. Hey, Chess. Veronica Sandy is also saying hi, and she's saying hi from New York City. Hello, Big Apple. You guys are getting ready for beautiful autumn, I hope. Bernard Gilbert is also showing his fist out there. Hello, Bernard. Florence Noel Augustin is also in the Big Apple. She's saying good morning to us. Sherman Lindsay has a huge heart, big heart. It's right there. Go check it out on Facebook. And there's a note from Loxley Langdon. Loxley says, did you say February 2014? Doesn't sound right. The CCJ bill in the newspaper says it cannot come into effect retroactively, so I do not think a public servant could be terminated retroactively. Something wrong here. Okay, Loxley, thank you very much for drawing that to my attention. I'm going to check with Concerned Citizen. Make sure we get those apples straight and all lined up. Also, just chiming in, Judy Lewis Joseph is checking in from St. John. So, good morning to all of you. Please spread the word about Gudday, Grenada. Like us, if you will. And right now, we're going to take a first little break here, and we'll come on back with the National Report.
So babe, Alberto and Beryl come and gone, right? So that means we still have Chris, Debbie, Florence, Michael, Patty, Sarah.
From the looks of it, Tony and Valerie might be coming as well. So we need to pick up some extra hurricane supplies.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's is an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan. Get discounts when using credit and debit cards.
Grenada Market has now introduced the prime products to online shoppers in the UK via amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmeg, Bourbonday and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
It's good to be early. It's good to be early. Pay your GrenadaBroadcast bill on time.
Met officers expect thunderstorm activity related to Tropical Storm Kirk, but things will not get worse. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the news in detail for Friday, September 28th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. While Tropical Storm Kirk has already passed us, it is under the influence of upper-level sharing, so there could be some thunderstorm activity, but things will not get worse. That assurance from Mr. Hubert White, manager of the Met Services at the Morris Bishop International Airport. He says Kirk poses no serious threat. However, thunder showers should be expected, especially to the eastern and western parts of the island.
We notice the center is in this area here. That's the center of the system, the eye. But although it's the eye, we look at all this cloudiness way back, indicating the sort of activities related to Kirk. We notice this area here, quite possible that it contains a lot of thunderstorms. And if you notice, Grenada is right here, so they are both to the east and west of Grenada, and concentrated more in the islands between Grenada and the St. Vincent. So it is not yet over. And one of the major concerns we have too is the seas. It's left a lot of choppy seas in the area, the west coast of Grenada, and the winds, as said, coming from the south. So expect the swells to affect most of the activities today on the sea.
So there's a marine advisory?
Of course, the marine advisory is out, so that people could exercise extreme caution, and based on the size of a craft, do not venture from shore, stay in port.
He says because Tropical Storm Kirk is under the influence of the upper-level sharing, floods and landslides cannot be ruled out.
Although the system has passed us, we are still left with a lot of the cloudiness and thunderstorms.
How long do you anticipate that cloudiness and the rain and so on will last for us?
Well, it's a bit difficult because what was happening too, as the system passed us, we expect the wind to be coming more from the south. And we notice the winds have been pretty strong. So that could more or less activate the intertropical convergence zone and could move some of those cloudiness northward into the island chain. So basically, after today, we don't have anything to worry about Kirk.
A small craft and marine advisory remains in effect for Grenada. Meanwhile, the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, says Grenada is not out of the woods yet with Tropical Storm Kirk. As expected, thunder showers can result in floods and landslides in some areas. Acting National Disaster Coordinator Sylvan McIntyre says Grenadians can rejoice that the island was not directly affected by the tropical storm, but we must remain vigilant. McIntyre says associates in Sedema have reported flooding in St. Lucia, Barbados, and northern parts of St. Vincent.
We are grateful that we did not have to deal with the direct impact. But let's put it this way, we're not out of the woods. We still have a threat of rain, and we do have the threat of landslide and flooding in some areas. What we've done so far is pass the information. I've spoken to our various district coordinators in the areas where rainfall is expected to be a bit more frequent. And so we are prepared to deal with accommodating people if it comes to that. But from all ends, we need not, as indicated, to be complacent or to take for granted. If the area is considered unsafe, people should not venture out uselessly.
He emphasized the importance of being prepared for any unforeseen weather condition and advised that containers of water must be secured as well as batteries and other supplies. Any official update on the weather will come collaboratively from NADMA and the Met Office.
So we would continue to keep the nation updated. We want people to ensure that their waterways, gullies, gutterings, etc., they should check their homes. If rain is falling, obviously you want to protect your valuables. And obviously, if it becomes extreme, water supply would be disrupted. There could be disruption in power supply as well, and people should do the usual preparedness thing that we've advocated. The most important thing, to be safe and listen for information and advisory as they would be released from this agency in collaboration with the Met Office.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The house was shaking. Then suddenly saw we hear bang, crack, and the roof had gone.
Man, I was so scared, I nearly wet myself.
Only those who have lived it can truly understand the devastating fury of a hurricane's wind.
The house across the road just get up and roll over.
Hurricane force wind. It's a hazard. Hazards. Take control. Reduce your loss. You can hurricane-proof your home. For example, Make your roof more wind resistant by using screws instead of nails in its construction. Find out more about hurricane force winds and other hazards at your local disaster office. A message from the National Disaster Management Agency and SEDERA.
Continuing the news, learning a foreign language is essential to ensure that students are equipped with a second language. The Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs has reintroduced Spanish into the primary school curriculum as part of the Foreign Languages Educational National Trust, or Fluent. Details from Annette Moore.
Due to issues with availability of human resource personnel to deliver the subject, the Spanish program had previously been discontinued in schools.
We are going to wake it up, beginning with the selected schools in the Fluent program. From the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs, particularly the Curriculum Division and Mrs. Alexis, I formally launch the Fluent program in the selected schools.
The primary Spanish program begins at the grade 3 level, with teachers delivering 2 30-minute sessions per week. Students will build their listening and oral skills through the use of fun, non-traditional teaching strategies. Currently, 5 schools are enrolled in the program.
The 5 schools participating are the Telescope Primary, St. Giles Anglican, St. Louis RC, Auburn Methodist, and the St. George's SDA Primary School. Charles Alexis says more schools are expected to be included in the near future.
I must make reference here to the support received from HarperCollins publishers. They have provided textbooks and workbooks for each of the 116 students participating in this program. 3 secondary Spanish language teachers have benefited from training, along with the 5 primary teachers.
During the ceremony, educational resources for the program were presented to some participating schools.
Through the internet, our world has been reduced to a global village. Therefore, the teaching of a foreign language is a step in the direction of bridging the gap in our differences.
Kadisha Batiste will be one of the Spanish teachers. Both her bachelor's and master's degrees were completed in the Spanish language. She wishes she had learned Spanish prior to beginning it at the secondary school level.
Right now, it being introduced into the primary school level, it makes it easier for the children to learn it, the same way they would be learning English in school as well. So I'm really excited about it, and so are the students.
I'm very excited about learning Spanish because if I go to the next country, I can talk Spanish and understand what the people are saying, and they can understand what I'm saying.
Quiero decir gracias para todo.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Okay. My bad. Let me apologize and let me spank myself. That was my fault. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. The very first story in that report, the National Report, was about the weather. Now, you're looking at that and you're obviously saying, hey, outdated. And yes, you're absolutely correct. And please allow me to explain what's actually happening here. I have made a commitment, not to government, but to myself, to keep the people of this country informed of what is happening or what government is doing every day, okay, on this program. They put out a report. It's called the National Report. You just watched it. And that comes out usually at about 7 o'clock at night, okay? Now, since we are not yet doing nighttime programming here on Grenada Broadcast, we will. But it's kind of impossible for me to get this out to you when they send it to me, okay? So what I do is, the next obvious thing, I run it the following morning. Now, the one you just saw came in on Friday evening. Well, we didn't have a program Saturday morning, Sunday morning, so here we are, Monday. And that's why you're seeing that a little bit late. Now, granted, perhaps I should have edited out that particular story, but then we would have been left with a story, a national report, maybe about that size, okay? I didn't want to do that. So please accept my apologies. I hope you do understand the delay in me getting these national reports to you. Let me say good morning to Kelly Harris. Kelly is in London. Is that London, England, Kelly, or London, Ontario? There's a London in Ontario, believe it or not. It's about 100 miles to the west of Toronto. But I'm assuming that Kelly Harris is in England. And also I see a note here. Hi, George. Louise Francois Nyack in London. She too is in London. See you soon. Okay, Louise, be in touch when you get back here. Nice to have you folks on board. Now, I'll tell you what. We are now going to take another little break. And then we'll come back. The Silver Sands issue. The thieves issue. Alibaba. And the nursing and doctoral thieves. We're going to be back in just a wee bit to hear some of that stuff.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
What's all the excitement about?
It seems that the Grenlec Community Partnership Initiative, GCPI, may be coming to an end.
I'm following this story. Did you know that over $22 million have been invested in community projects through the GCPI? Now, these organizations that are on the ground solving problems may lose their funding.
All because government has now passed a law that requires Grenlec to pay 5% of its pre-tax profits to a social fund controlled by a government-appointed committee. Remarkably, that's the same 5% that Grenlec puts aside every year to fund community projects.
Do you know how Grenlec's community program started?
Not really.
Well, in 1993, when they made an offer to buy 50% of Grenlec's shares, WRB also proposed that Grenlec would give 5% of its pre-tax profits for community projects.
That's interesting. Then all this talk about the people's money is completely misleading. I have never heard our government making that claim about any other business that contributes to community work.
In fact, this 5% is money that all of Grenlec's more than 2,000 shareholders, including your neighbor Farmer Jones, are investing in the community instead of putting into their pockets. And we can't reasonably ask them to give up more, just because government wants to take control of the 5% already intended for the community.
I don't like the implication of this law, Watts. Firstly, GrenLec is the only business in Grenada to which this law applies. Secondly, GrenLec's contributions will go from directly serving community organizations in a non-political, non-partisan manner to one that is subject to political influence.
Right now, GrenLec's program is well developed and properly managed. Plus, many communities benefit. I've seen projects for schools, hospitals, elderly and children's homes, even playing fields being lit. And government has always had a say in which projects get funded, because a government representative sits on the GCPI committee.
That's true, and we don't understand the reason for the new law. We want to appeal to the government to reconsider it.
GrenLec, energizing our Grenada.
Grenada Market has now introduced the Prime products to online shoppers in the UK via amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmed, Bourbonday and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks. I think a lot of people in Grenada have already heard about what happened at that town hall meeting in New York, which was attended. I know for sure that the Prime Minister was there. I also know that the Health Minister was present, Nicholas Dale. And some comments were made which ruffled a few feathers, not only at the General Hospital, but throughout the populace here in Grenada. And Facebook, the radio stations, television stations, newspapers, everybody's just been swamped with this stuff. But last night I was talking to somebody who said, I keep hearing all this talk, but I haven't actually seen it. So I thought, this morning I would run this for you again. I'm going to run two excerpts. One is about 7 minutes long. I think the other one's about 4 minutes long. The first one you're going to see is the Prime Minister talking about Grenada-China relations and also about the Silver Sands issue. Take a look.
Want to know what has been done with the Silver Sands project. Is that all going to be taken out? We really need to understand, have a better understanding of how did it get so far? Did somebody sleep on the job? How did it allow, who allowed the project to go forward, knowing that it was an illegal encroachment? That's a question for some of the folks online.
China, let me deal with both. In fact, I plan to deal with the Silver Sand issue when I was on the podium, but I forgot, so I'm glad you raised it. But let me go on the Chinese thing. We don't have a major amount of debt to China. I can't give you the exact number, but it's a very small number because it's only recently we established relationship with China. It's only a few months ago we signed on to a $65 million contract with the Chinese government. About 2% interest, but about 30 years to repay. And that is for the expansion of the international airport, to create an additional runway and other facilities, and to upgrade the facilities and the roads leading into and out of the airport. So that's a major project that we have gone into, and it would include doing some work with the Carriacou airport also, that whole development. In that particular area. So the Chinese, the government relationship we have with China, we have a very respectful relationship. We believe that we should have a relationship with every country, and whatever decision we take, it must be based on mutual respect You respect our country, we respect yours. We may not agree with your system of governance, and you may not agree with our system of governance, but we have to have relationship with all countries regardless. And that's Grenada's fundamental position. The civil service issue, it's extremely unfortunate. Let me say this. You have an investment. Someone comes to your country and invests hundreds of millions of dollars in a development. We want investment. And it provided hundreds of jobs to Grenadians. Now, you may have an incident, like in the case of that issue with the wall. That's the wall near to the beach. Now, it is not a whole investment. It's a wall that was put up. The people, let me just finish. Just listen to me carefully. I am not here to defend anybody, just to tell you what the circumstances are. Now, it turns out that the people bought the property from Grenadians. In the same area that they bought is what they were building on. And in other words, they were building there before. So there were errors even before that. It was found out that they did not get the permission from physical planning. Physical planning went in and started negotiating with the people. They agreed to move it. It has been moved already. It has been broken down by theirs. They're not breaking it down already. That's a fact. But that, I'm just making a point. I'm making a point. Now, let me say this. The people have not disagreed that they must take action. They were not the first offender of the problem.
It's not the wall.
The point is they were willing to do what physical planning asked them to do. But yet, some of us got on TV and radio and these bad people, these wicked people, come to destroy our country, and a man comes here. No, but seriously, I must talk about this. Somebody comes here. You have 500 jobs, Grenadians. You know you have 500 people vexed with this? When you're making noise about that? But the people make a mistake. All of us make mistakes. They are ready to correct it, but you're on TV, calling them all kinds of names. The people are now negotiating. They have now negotiated with scores of farmers in Sates, in St. Patrick's, St. Andrews, Victoria, contracting farmers to produce food. Over 75 farmers already. So the farmers getting help. Hundreds of workers working. The construction industry growing. People are getting jobs. Somebody makes a mistake. And you go on as if they're the biggest evil in the world. The man could take his money and go anywhere. This individual has property in the United States. 3 hotels in the United States. He has in Europe. He has in the Middle East. There's a billionaire you're talking about. So if we don't want him, we'll set him out. Other countries would love to get him. But I am saying, I have no problem with the persons having made an error, and we have dealt with it and are dealing with it, and they have agreed that you cannot break the law of the land. No matter how much money you have, you can't go break the law of the land. What I don't agree in, before something happens, you on television, radio, going all over the world and calling people all kind of names. Suppose the man decided to hell with it. I go on. Are we going to be happy with this? Well, I'm just saying, it's the approach I'm against. I am not talking about whether the problem should not be dealt with and should not be raised, but the way that some people are behaving as if the man comes here to destroy us and to do all kinds of wickedness to us. And I'm saying that is unfortunate, and I certainly would not be able to agree with that position. And that's why I wanted to explain that thing and the situation like this.
St. Jordan. Very quick question. Well, congratulations on the bringing forth the clean bill in terms of the CCJ people for vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we just listen, please? Thank you.
A few years ago, yourself and Peter David had some issues. You were taking jabs at each other in terms of legitimacy, in terms of who can run for office. One being from the Commonwealth country and one you previously having a U.S. passport. At this point, the fact that you have an item going before the people in reference to the CCJ, Constitution reform, would you consider bringing the item to the people that allow all Grenadians living in Grenada to take an active part in the political system, irrelevant of Commonwealth citizenship or not? Okay, right now Commonwealth citizens, Grenadians that move from Canada, for example, back to Grenada, from Australia to Grenada, can keep those passports and take part in the political system. Grenadians who move back from the US and non-Commonwealth countries are not allowed to do so.
Says who?
Level playing.
We're back. Okay. I am not going to make any comments about what you just saw and heard. We'll leave that entirely up to you. I see here that on Facebook, Veronica Sandy says, they bought the property from you. What that have to do with a war? Here you KM. You guys figure that out. There's another one which I'm still trying to put together in my mind. I am not able yet to understand exactly what this person is saying. Beverly Isaac says, the old hotel was never that close to the water. Of the build on old structure, then they build on the old jetty. The first part I understand, Beverly. It says, the old hotel was never that close to the water, and you're absolutely correct. I'm sorry, I really don't understand the rest of it. Now, that was part one of the two parts that I want to show you. The second one's a little bit shorter. It's only about 4 minutes long. And this particular one, you will hear the health minister talking about the healthcare system here in Grenada. And then, the Prime Minister jumps in. And that's when you will hear what many are considering to have been a most unfortunate statement. True or false? I don't know. I am no one's judge. However, this has created quite a brouhaha in this country. Here goes.
What for most of you would be a lifetime, to come back now and enjoy the fruits of your labor from up here in your home. And I know of many that have come, set up, and have to leave because of an ailment or so, and have to leave because two reasons. One, quality of care, and two, affordability of care. So with national health insurance, the affordability of care is removed because you are a Grenadian and therefore you're entitled to the health insurance that covers you. So many of you know that you leave, and especially for those in Canada or in the UK that leave to go back to the NHS, that is why NHI is going to result not just in coverage, but an upgrade and improvement in the level of and quality of health services that are offered in Grenada. Because you are now directly paying from a pool, a source, same way NIS handles, although the payment that you get as a pension, you're not worrying right now at all about the money. NHI covers the cost that we have decided, we as a people decide will be the health that we want, and that's covered. So if we want oncology, if we want whatever else, we decide, and that's covered. And those are most of the issues that many of you are leaving to come back up here for.
I don't think the question is contract. Contract, you can give a contract to an individual to do a service. I don't think the issue of healthcare has a lot to do with contracts. I think sometimes that word's been misused by some of our friends in the trade union. Move on, and other people, because of lack of understanding. The fact is, when we had a structural adjustment program, which was recently, it was insisted that we must bring down the numbers of permanent people in the public service, because we are way over the number required, what what will get us the kind of help that we need. So we had no choice but to commit ourselves. We never got rid of anybody, but we had agreed as people leave the system, we reduce the numbers. Barbados in coming with a structural adjustment program recently when they let go thousands of workers, but they let go one worker during the period of structural adjustment. So we applied what we call a contract, which is not permanent. Since then, there's been a number of people taken onto the system, like a number of nurses have now become permanent. But let me just I want to shorten this, so just make one point. The problem in Grenada with the health system, or most issues of development, is generally not the number of persons, it is the management of the system. We could put 100 more doctors, 100 more nurses, and the mindset of some people, and the level of incompetence, the level of stealing taking place in the hospital. The more you buy things, the more they steal. It's a fact. Sometimes we don't like to talk about that, but we're in a position, I know over the years, you talk to people at different levels, not one set of people. We got doctors doing it, we got nurses doing it, we got orderlies doing it, security people doing it. The more meat you buy, more meat disappear.
Let me just add one thing here. Those of you named the best hospital here in Brooklyn or in New York, the best. Any of those nurses or doctors are permanent?
Yes, our doctors are permanent.
Contract or tenure, the quality, there isn't a correlation between. There is.
You can't.
Okay. You know what I found really interesting about that piece? The Prime Minister mentioned that the problem with the healthcare system in Grenada is the management of the system. All right, and I found it really interesting because sitting right next to him, if I'm not mistaken, on his left, was the Minister of Health. I think he needs to call the minister into his office and say, hey, the problem with the healthcare system is management, don't you? Hey, anyhow, folks, I also want to take a moment here to say thank you so much. That video you saw didn't come from CNN or Fox or NBC or anybody of that nature. It was sent to us by a Grenadian who actually lives in New York, Margaret Francis. And I do appreciate it, Margaret. Thank you very much. She's a Grenadian who was curious about what's happening back at home, so she went down to that town hall meeting with her little smartphone and sat there and videotaped that and sent it to us. So thank you very much, Margaret. Okay, now I'm going to take another little break here and we'll come back with some parting words.
Grenada Market has now introduced the Prime products to online shoppers in the UK via amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmeg, Bobanday and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Hi, I'm Gloria. My family and I travel all around the world, lighting up homes and businesses just like yours. And lately, we've been hearing a lot of talk about electricity.
Yes. Are my rates the highest in the world?
Your rate is definitely not the highest. Grenadians are paying a similar rate to some islands in the Caribbean, and in some cases, even less.
GrenLec, energizing our Grenada.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional stability. And wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for. Grenadian
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Alrighty, folks. It's just about curtain time, but I want to read a couple of comments here from Loxley. Loxley Langdon, you've got a great sense of humor. Loxley says here, and this is right after listening to the part about the hospital. Loxley says, and yet there is a geriatric as the hospital manager. You got a warped sense of humor, Loxley. Thank you, sir. And then he also goes on to say here, now I haven't read this before, but let me read it right now. It says, but just as the Minister of Education manages the school, so too the Minister of Health manages the hospital. So this is an indictment on the Minister and Prime Minister and do one else. I think he means and no one else. Thank you, Loxley. Very observant. Okie dokie, folks. You know, we have come to the end of today's edition. And once again, I'm going to ask that you spread the word around that we are on the air every weekday morning starting at 9 o'clock. Sometimes we go to about 9:40, 9:45, 9:50, 9:55, and as the case is here this morning, we're up to 9:57. So we've done about an hour. On Monday mornings, you'll get to hear Beverly Sinclair. The reason why Bev was not here this morning is because we did have some technical... She's not able to join us live on a Monday morning. However, we did attempt to pre-record her contribution yesterday afternoon, but we did have some technical difficulties. However, Bev is there, and she'll be joining us next Monday, by which time we do hope to have those issues resolved. And by the way, if you can't wait until next Monday, join her on Thursday night, along with the usual suspects, for the next edition of Mech We Chat. Then on Tuesdays, you get to hear Ray Roberts. On Wednesdays, that's up in the air right now. On Thursday, Mr. Alan Berzinski. And hopefully, we will be rejoined by Mr. Cecil Belfon on Friday. So, my dear friends, that's going to do it for today's edition of Good Day Grenada. But before I go, I do have some words of wisdom for you. Listen carefully. Bless those who persecute you. Bless. Do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Don't be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Don't be conceited. Folks, carry those words close to your heart. And I do pray that God will bless you. So, on that note, Georgie Porgy says, bonsoir. Why? What's happening here? Why? What's happening here? Are we not? Georgie's coming and going. Veronica Sandy says, amen. Thank you, Veronica. We'll see you guys tomorrow. So long.